Article 104, fraudulent enlistment. Now, this one I've heard of a few cases of it happening. And I mean, what it was that was fraudulent for those people varied greatly. But I mean, I even mentioned it in the video. It's one of those things that you probably hear. This is one of the articles that you hear probably the most violated, at least from what I've gathered, just being out in the Air Force. How many times do you guys encounter something like this?
I mean, we do encounter it. The difficult part, at least, used to be, and this is prior to January of last year, was proving that it was the member's fault. A lot of times they would say, well, my recruiter told me that I needed to say X on my enlistment documents, or that I needed to not tell anybody that I had asthma, whatever the case may be. And those are all grounds, that potentially a member would not have been allowed to enlist. Don't tell them about this arrest. Don't tell them about X, whatever it may have been. And those were all different grounds, but they always had a nice scapegoat of, well, my recruiter told me not to. Now, there's a discharge basis for fraudulent enlistment, and so we can just kick them out as well, just simple as that, and not do any sort of punishment. But in 2019, Congress decided to add a few new articles, one being 104A. They moved 104 to 104A, and that's where the member specifically said, hey, they lied directly.
Yeah, I was looking into it, and I did see that there was 104 and then 104A underneath it. I didn't go any further into it, but
so that's a recent addition. The reason they did that is so that way they could honestly hold recruiters accountable for being less than forthcoming with assisting these individuals. Because in the past it was, hey, I have the scapegoat. My recruiter told me to do it, and who knows? Maybe the recruiter's retired by that point. I mean, you've got some techs and masters out there recruiting people. They're not too worried about it, and the recruiting corps itself isn't going to start hammering down on those people. So, well, how do we address this? And so they created a specific article to charge and hold those individuals accountable for assisting individuals in fraudulently enlisting. And it's not just recruiters either. It could be if there's a military medical individual who did your medical evaluation and they're a uniform wearing person, they could be held accountable for not being honest about your diagnoses.
Yeah, I mean, we've all heard those stories where those recruiter horror stories for whatever reason. And yeah, I mean, are there recruiters that are not the ideal recruiter? Yes. Are there recruits out there that are not the ideal recruits? Yes. So the fact that they separated it into two and being able to hold those people accountable individually I think it's a really good thing. I didn't know that they separated it that way specifically for that reason.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like the individual that came in that enlisted with, inaccurate or misrepresenting information or fraudulent enlistment, they just get kicked out, like you mentioned. And, whenever it goes down to the recruiter, then, what's that like?
We haven't gotten too many of those cases. Typically, first off, they're not allowed to be a recruiter anymore if they're still recruiting. The Air Force Recruiting Service normally takes them out of those billets. Yanks them out of there. I mean, that's a position of trust, and we can't have individuals who aren't playing by the rules there, because that's already supposed to be a stringent process to even get those jobs, those developmental special duties, right? Beyond that, I mean, Article 15s normally, I'm not aware of anyone being court-martialed for it. It doesn't mean that happened, but I'm not aware of it rising to that level. And going back to the airmen who maybe misrepresented something, a lot of time, they're just kicked out. But if it's something that's waivable, they work around, their recruiter just maybe they didn't know, or whatever the case may have been, or the member just didn't know and was scared. If they're a good troop and they're doing really well, because a lot of times these things, they come to light when they're in like technical training. I mean, so the Air Force has already invested a good bit of money into them. If they're doing well, a lot of times they'll process a waiver for them. So they may get a quick slap on the wrist and a quick talking to about integrity. And then they can continue on with their career in a capacity.
Well, I love that that's a thing, because I mean, usually, like, whenever I went through the Tech P schoolhouse and I ended up getting eliminated from it, like, I met a lot of really stellar airmen that just had all their eggs in one basket, just like I did. And I mean, it was really good to see them put into another position, where they have the potential and the opportunity to flourish in a different environment that they originally anticipated. And then you did have those people that just, like, no, this is the only thing I wanted to do. I'm ready to get out. But the people that really wanted to stay in, that had, reasons to stay in, if they're still given the opportunity to do that, that's actually a really great thing to hear.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to do that. And if a member wants to stay and they're doing good work, yeah, I mean, we've invested money and we want to keep them there. And it's difficult to call it. I hate to use the word fair, right? Because life isn't fair.
That's very true. That's very true.
Unfortunately. And sometimes the Air Force isn't, we may not feel it's fair, but to ask a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old to answer all these questions and to make the perfect adult decisions, that's a very high expectation. And that a lot of these kids they're going to miss the mark, right? I mean, they're joining. Some of them, yeah, definitely. We have a large majority of our military who join because they that's all they've ever wanted to do. They have a family heritage. They have just a strong desire to serve. Others, it's because they didn't have any other choices. They didn't have any other options. That was the best option available to them. I mean, that's a lot of our core, I think. I mean, for me, that's what it was. It was my best option at the time, and I did it, and I'm happy with it. But I mean, those guys, they're terrified of not getting in. They're terrified of it. Of that last, what they view as the last door being closed in their face. So I mean, they may be a little less than honest about how much pot they smoked or how many speeding tickets they have, or they got arrested this one time for shoplifting.
That's definitely true. I don't necessarily hear a lot of that static on the Air Force side. I have heard a lot of that static coming from other recruiting offices where, these potential type of cases are more prevalent over there. It's nothing to knock them over there, but one thing that I did notice between all the different recruiting offices is, the Air Force wasn't going out of its way to get you. You know, it was one of those things just like, hey, if you qualify here, this is where you want to be. The Army and the Marines, God bless them, they'll give you a Camaro to join the military if they could. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the XChange over at our channel, Wild at Heart Association. This is a podcast-style interview format that we recently started, and we hope you guys are enjoying it. Be sure to check that out, give that video a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you like what we're doing here at Wild at Heart.